certainly good to be back again and to see so many faces that I recognize. And it's a delight to see so many. I won't name you all because I'll forget half your names while I'm doing it. And I wouldn't want all the rotten eggs thrown at me on the way out of the church. But it is a delight to see all of you today, and certainly to share in this very special day that we're sharing together this morning. Birthdays and anniversaries are meant to be happy occasions. They mark milestones in our lives. In marriage, churches, businesses, whatever. When we plan parties, we usually go all out. People come from all over the place that haven't been around regularly. You can see that by the number that are here this morning. We expect happiness. We expect laughter. We expect Muschelkeit. I didn't pronounce that right. Sorry, Johanna. Muschelkeit. That's better. But anyway, we give 3 cheers for accomplishments. Things well done over the years. Hooray for us! Look what we've accomplished. On the other hand, the older we get, the more birthday parties and anniversary celebrations become just a bit bittersweet. We look around and say, they look a lot older than they did. We look at each other and we say the same thing to each other in our minds to each other. Time has gone by. And we realize that with every milestone in our lives, one more year has passed. We have one less year to go. And the things we remember people doing and being able to do, they can't do anymore. And so there's also a sadness involved in anniversaries. The older we get, the more finite our lives become. Today, Zion is celebrating 75 years of history. Now, I doubt any of us were present 75 years ago. Were you? Wonderful. Yeah, a couple. But most of it, though, that's a long time to have been around. And it's so good to gather together, but everybody's had their own part to play. Whenever we became a member of the congregation, we joined a group of dedicated men and women who loved their Lord and who loved this little church. So many of them have moved away or died, and that makes a sadness for all of us. The old friends that we shared together aren't sitting amongst you this morning. And yet I think they're here. They're here amongst us in spirit and in rejoicing in heaven. We remember them for their lives, their love, their companionship, their common friendship, and the things that we have done together. I remember all with fondness most of the names that are on the plaques on the back wall. I remember the first little plaque that I got, and I said, "Oh, that'll last forever." Well, I was here long enough to get a big plaque. And we filled that up. So I said, it just happens that way. When we first did it, there were still some pews that didn't have name tags on the end of it. We filled them up in the first couple of years. And after that, we just kept adding to it. But I remember all those people, and I cherish them. There was a love that each of you remembered down through the years, certain individual people that are no longer here, that were a real delight for you, and the things that we shared. And every one of those people was a part of our fellowship. Every one of them contributed something to the lives of those who remained when they left us. Every one of them was important in their own very unique way. An anniversary is a testament to their faith. Not just those of us who are fortunate enough to still be walking and talking. We're still fortunate enough to be alive today. I was here for 30 years as your pastor through good times and difficult times. And I loved and cherished all those who have been a part of this congregation over those years. They were all important. They were all loved. And as I said earlier, I'd like to be able to name every one of them. Except my mind wouldn't work any further than maybe possibly the first third. And then somebody would be angry with me because I forgot them or somebody that they loved. I just have no memory for names, and all of you know it. And it's been a very embarrassing thing at times. I can remember years ago when we had two members of church council that were sitting with their wives in the front pew over there, and I went over and called them by the opposite names. And the second I did it, I knew it was wrong, but they just broke up laughing, thank goodness, because they knew how stupid this brain was of mine, and I was a lot younger then than I am now. But I cherish their memory. But it's not only a time for caressing our history or celebrating the lives of those who have gone before us, who have fought the good fight and have gone to God. Right now, we are a part of our history. And some of us have been so for a good many years. We have our memories. We cherish those memories. And we share a need to celebrate everyone here who shares in our joy. You are all very special and very important. Without all of us, this congregation would not have survived. We need to share that love amongst us throughout this special day and through whatever years we have left. In our gospel for today, we read, He took a child and put him in the midst of them. It seems like such a simple gesture. Children weren't even paid much attention to back in that age. But Jesus always had a special place in his heart for children. But it's a good example for us and for his disciples. His disciples had been arguing between themselves which one of them was the greatest. And of course, you know that always gets you into trouble. The result of their arguments would either be a triumph or a put-down, depending on how the vote went. We often look at anniversaries that way. Which of us has done more for this congregation? Which of us has contributed the most to the ongoing ministry of Zion Church? Would the VIPs be those who were here when they organized the church and built the church? Well, sure. If it wasn't for them, you wouldn't have a church. Would the VIPs be those who sustained the church over the years? Of course. If they hadn't worked, they hadn't been here, there would be no church. Would the VIP be the pastor who served Zion the longest? Well, actually. But without Jocelyn, Pastor Bill, without all those who came before, there wouldn't be a church. Would the VIP have been the organist that serves with such dedication over the years? Yeah, even when we fought with each other. We did sometimes. And I'm so thankful to see we have a new organist who's very dedicated. The VIP has been the members of the congregation, or the congregation council, or those who gave their time to teach the children in the back room, or those who have served as treasurer over the years, or those who worked very hard in the Ladies' Guild. I mean, that worked a lot too. Every one of them is important. And every one of you will find your place here. Even if you're new to the church, you're taking up a beloved task. Everyone who came simply and worshiped their Lord from the pew every Sunday, gave something to the celebration of God here at Zion. How can we decide who was greatest in the eyes of God for keeping this congregation going for 75 years? Instead of crowning one or two of his disciples as really the most faithful, or those he thought had given the most for his ministry, Jesus took a child and set that child amongst them. That child had no experience at all as far as the disciples were concerned. He hadn't left home. He hadn't suffered hunger, perhaps, or tiredness of being covered with dirt. He hadn't had to face both the laughter and the cheers and the scorn of the crowds. He was just a kid, a simple child. And that message is the way that Jesus said to call on his disciples to cherish and keep, if they could, the childlike spirit and the childlike heart. The childlike way of looking at life with anticipation, with hope and with joy. The way of looking at life, the way of believing in life. The way of waiting confidently for what life has to bring. That's a special gift that children have to give to so many of us who have now gotten over 65. We kind of tend to get down at times with all of our aches and pains and our problems. But that's a message to us. And the message is good for our 75th anniversary here as it was for the disciples so long ago. You see, living with a childlike spirit will temper our ambition and cleanse us from our narrow concerns for ourselves. Christians ought to be a part of a community of the kingdom where no one fights to be first, where greatness is a legacy of each person, who volunteers for service of all. That's what our past teaches us. It's not how great and wonderful we are, give 3 cheers. It's how wonderful those who have gone before us, and we ourselves join together with them to serve God in the name of Christ. That's what our past should teach us. Everyone who has ever been a part of this congregation has served the Lord in our own special way. We can't rank those who have been dedicating their lives to the Lord through the years. You can't say, I gave more than she did, or you gave more than you did. It doesn't work that way. Even if you only came, you were giving something both to the people of God here and to God himself. We can only celebrate that the Lord has been amongst us and will remain amongst us, no matter what the future may bring. He took a child and put him in the midst of them. What a difference a childlike attitude and spirit work in the affairs of the kingdom. The child represents openness, readiness to receive guidance, instruction, and gifts. The child represents a simple trust, which accepts without thinking that he or she must now add up the totals in order to pay off God. A child reflects the love of its elders. A child reflects the love of God. Jesus taught that the kingdom of God was offered and given to all who were open to receive it. Unless we accept it without stipulations and conditions, like little children, we're not eligible to receive it at all. I remember during the last years amongst you, Sherry Schnepp directed our gang players, presenting the movie Annie. And it was a resounding success, and it was because so many people worked to make it so. They had, 60 or 70 children, I think, involved in that. And it was a great show. The children were great because of their innocence, their training, and their enthusiasm. The dream had been born in Sherry's heart, but the children made it come alive in spirit. The most memorable and singable number in that musical was one sung by Annie and the company. The sun will come out tomorrow. Bet your bottom dollar that tomorrow there will be sun. And the refrain goes, tomorrow, tomorrow, it's almost tomorrow, it's only a day away. I keep repeating those to myself, and we've had nothing but rain for 3 months down south. Up here you don't mind a little sun because you had too much rain. Our hearts are really attracted and lifted up by those words. And the song does express the popular and comforting idea that there's always going to be more time. There's always a second chance. And somehow that door of life will always stay open. Things are always going to work out, just because we want them to. Tomorrow is going to be there, if we just wait until tomorrow. And we should know from experience that that song is not completely true. The older you get, the more you've learned it over the years. Life throws up roadblocks. Tomorrow is not always going to be a sunnier day, a more hopeful day, a better day, a clearer day. Sometimes it just doesn't work that way. But we have to remember that that song is sung by children. And it's meant for all of us to retain the starshine of youth in our hearts. God's message is exactly the same, because he looks beyond the yesterdays and the todays into the tomorrows and into a future that he has in his loving hands. God knows what the future, what our future will bring when he joins all those who have gone before us in his kingdom. God wants us to be hopeful and trusting and as excited as a child. We need to bring those memories of yesterday into our todays and forward in tomorrows. Not just remember the past either with a fondness that says, I want to go home, or I wish I was back then, or I wish things had been different, but to realize all the good things that happen to all of us, even in the midst of bad things. Some things were well worth waiting for. The thrust of God is always forward. Earth itself is like a spaceship traveling into the unknown. But it's always in control of the one who loves and cares for us. I can remember when I first came here, which is almost 40 years ago, I guess, today. I was just a kid. Not totally inexperienced, but almost totally inexperienced, let's put it that way. And I still remember, as Dolly will tell you, they had a little choir of kids. Remember? And they sang the song about the wise man building his house upon the rock and the foolish man building his house upon the sand. And I thought, what a thing to welcome the new pastor. Smile and spit. And the waves came and washed it away. Fortunately, I left and left that to Pastor Jocelyn. Even after 30 years, I got away with not having anything. Believe me, I was thankful somebody else had to deal with that. And she left right afterwards, so but you had to tell her, it was the first time since 1962 they had a storm that bad out here. Yeah! Unfortunately, it wasn't so bad in Barnegat Light. You didn't have any sewer, maybe. You didn't have any electric, all kinds of other things, but at least it didn't wash half the houses away. It was something that could be said for it. In 1963, an English songwriter by the name of Sidney Carter was inspired to write new words to a tune he borrowed from the American Shaker song, Simple Gifts. It follows the idea of a traditional English carol. Tomorrow will be my dancing day, which tells the gospel story in the first-person voice of Jesus of Nazareth, with the device of portraying Jesus' life and mission as a dance. And when I first heard this song, about the time I was in college, I thought it was atrocious. I mean, I was brought up to be serious about church. How can you think of it as a dance? Good heavens. He danced in the morning when the earth was begun. He danced in the moon and the stars and the sun. And he came down to heaven and danced on the earth. And in Bethlehem, that part's all right. But how about the crucifixion? There are different things that just dancing in church just was not cricket. Couldn't accept it. And the hymn is entitled, Lord of the Dance. That's particularly appropriate for us today. The chorus goes, "Dance then wherever you may be. I am the Lord of the dance," said he. "And I'll lead you all wherever you may be, and I will lead you all in the dance," said he. Think about that. That's the attitude that Christ teaches us. Not to sit around and whine about what no longer is, or to be afraid of what will come, but to dance in the day, to rejoice in the day, to share together with joy and peace and hope, to be as children. So let's all be as children. Shove aside the baggage we bring us with us and rejoice in the one who has always been, who is now, and who always will be. Let's dance with the Lord of life, along with all those with whom we have shared this life together, that we call Zion Evangelical Lutheran Church. Cherish those who have gone from us to God himself, who are at peace and no longer subject to the trials of this world. Rejoice with those who are alive this day, whether you get a little bit more creaky, as all of us do, whether they have to operate on you and make things better and all that kind of stuff. And finally, when they run out of things they can do, and you have to do what you said you'd do all your life. Heaven's coming. And believe it. So let's dance with the Lord of life, along with all those with whom we have shared together. Let us join hands and sing together on this special day. To the Lord of the dance, who gets even us old creaky old folks to dance. Dance then wherever you may be. I am the Lord of the dance, said he, and I'll lead you all wherever you may be. And I'll lead you all in the dance, said he. Amen.
Amen.
Serving in a little Episcopal church that's actually not much smaller than this is. A lot less people. It's the first time I've had a clap in a long time.